It will look more circular than that, but that's the general idea. So in every direction, you'd have a radius of 2. All right, any questions on that one? All right, I'll leave that up for a few seconds. All right, so let's say we wanted to find the center and radius for, say, x squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 21. Okay. Remember, we want to match it up with x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals your radius squared. Okay, so just like before, the first thing you want to do is rewrite it to match the formula. Okay, so instead of x squared, you can just make it x minus 0 squared. X minus 0 is the same thing as x. Plus, you have y minus k. Make that y minus negative 2 squared. Okay, so to get our r squared, 21, you can't do it like you did 4 to make it 2 squared. It's not a perfect square. So with 21, you can just make that equal the square root of 21 squared. Since we know that 21 is just the square root of 21 squared. So if you had 19, you do square root of 19 squared. Same thing. Where we know our h is equal to 0, our k is equal to negative 2, and our radius is equal to square root of 21. Okay, so we know that our center is hk, which is 0, negative 2, and our radius, which is our r, is square root of 21. Oh, might as well circle that. Okay, so any questions on that one? All right, I'll leave that up for a second. He wants to do writing. Okay. Quick note, we know already that x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals your radius squared. That's your standard form. Clean that up a little. Okay, that's your standard form of a circle, at least the equation of a circle. But if you have let's say ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e equals 0, where a, b, c, d, and e are just numbers. Or actually, you can put equals e if you want to. It doesn't have to be on that side. So a, b, c, d, and e are real numbers. This is what they call the general form. Okay, so now we're going to convert from the general form to the standard form. So let's say, for example, find the center and radius for the circle. Say it's x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 4y minus 3 equals 0. Clean up that y a little bit. There we go. Okay, so your very first step, you want to put all terms, all like terms next to each other and move any constants to the other side. Constants to the other side. Okay, so that means your x squared, you want that next to your negative 6x. Your y squared, you want that next to your 4y. And that 3, we're just going to add 3 to both sides, move it right on over. Okay, so you have x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 4y. Then you're going to add 3 to both sides, so that's going to equal 3. Okay, so we moved all the x terms next to each other, all the y terms next to each other, and that 3 just went right on over. Okay, so your second step is you're going to complete the square for both sides, for each variable. So complete the square for both the x terms and y terms. Okay, so if we have x squared minus 6x, I'll give it a little bit of space, plus y squared plus 4y equals 3. Draw a little divider there. Okay, so we're going to complete the square for these and complete the square for that one. Okay, so we know here our a is equal to 1 and our b is equal to negative 6. Okay, so we know our completing the square formula is b divided by 2a squared. Okay, so that means it will be negative 6 divided by 2 times 1 squared. So negative 6, make that a little bit smaller. So negative 6 divided by 2 squared. Where we know that's negative 3 squared. And remember, you're going to remember that value, which just gives us 9. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. We're just going to do our completing the square. But on this one, our a is equal to 1, and our b is equal to 4. So that means our completing the square, which is b divided by 2a, so 4 divided by 2 times 1. Why do I keep forgetting my equal sign? Okay, so it ends up being 2 squared, and you want to remember the value before you apply the square. So it's just going to equal 4. Okay. So now your third step is you're going to add those values to both sides, which creates your perfect square trinomial. Okay, so we have x squared minus 6x Okay, so remember this side is plus 9, so we're going to kind of underline that one, plus y squared plus 4y, and this side was plus 4 equals 3. So if we added a 9 and a 4 to this side, we have to add a 9 and a 4 to that side. Can't do something to one side of the equal sign and not the other. Okay, so once we added that to both sides, this created our perfect square trinomial. Okay, so remember that value, so we know that this just becomes x minus 3 squared plus, and this becomes x plus 2 squared, y plus 2, sorry, squared equals 3 plus 9 is 12, plus 4 is 16. Okay, so we actually have our standard form. All we have to do now is just match it up with the formula. Okay, so we have our standard form. So just match with the formula, and we can get everything we need. Okay, so you have x minus 3 squared.
Wasn't the original equation y squared minus 4y?
Was it? Nope, it was plus 4y.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was minus 6x. So you wait till we're like 2 steps from the end to bring that up. I would have been mad.
I didn't even, well, because it still would have been 4, but it would have been y minus 2.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. I'm glad to just...
Yeah, I didn't catch it until the end.
Yeah, but it was plus 4.
Okay.
All right, so our y plus 2, y minus negative 2 squared. And our 16, we could just make that 4 squared. Okay, where our h is equal to 3, our k is equal to negative 2, and our r is equal to 4. Okay, so our center, which is hk, is 3, negative 2, and our radius is equal to 4. All right, so any questions on that one? All right. I'll do one more example, then I'll let you out of here. let's say for this one, we want to find the center and radius for the circle 2x squared plus 8x plus 2y squared plus 4y minus 62 equals 0. So just like before, you want to rewrite it to where you get all your x terms next to each other and your y terms next to each other and the constants on the other side. Well, this one, you're already good with the x terms and y terms being next to each other. You just have to get the constant on the other side. Okay, so we have 2x squared plus 8x plus 2y squared plus 4y equals 62. Okay, so that part was pretty painless. Okay. So now with this one, the only difference between this one and the one before is that your x squared and your y squared now have coefficients. So with this one, you have to factor out the coefficients and then use completing the square. I have to factor out the coefficients of x squared and y squared. You complete the square. Okay, so we know that for these two terms, we can factor out a 2. So that becomes 2 times x squared plus 4x. Okay, we're not going to factor out the x, just the 2. Plus, and for these, we can factor out a 2. That's 2